What if I told you that the idea of free will, the very belief that you are the author of your own life, is one of the most controversial illusions in human history? From childhood, we're taught that we choose freely. You decided what to wear today, what to eat, what to watch. You believe you could have chosen differently. But what if that's a lie? What if your every decision, every thought, every desire was set in motion long before you even knew it existed? Think about it. Right now, you're listening to these words. But did you choose to pay attention, or did your brain simply react to curiosity, emotion, or boredom? You didn't choose the parents you were born to. You didn't choose the society that shaped you, the genetics that wired your brain, or the events that formed your personality. So when you choose, how much of that choice is really yours? Neuroscience has been poking at this uncomfortable truth for decades. In the 1980s, Benjamin Libet conducted experiments showing that the brain registers a decision milliseconds before the person becomes consciously aware of making it. In other words, your brain decides before you do. More recent studies using fMRI scans have pushed this gap to several seconds. Scientists can often predict what decision a subject will make before the subject believes they've chosen. If that's true, then who, or what, is really in control? Some philosophers argue that free will is nothing more than a comforting story our minds tell to make sense of automatic processes. Sam Harris, a neuroscientist and philosopher, bluntly puts it, free will is an illusion. According to him, if you trace your choices back far enough, you'll find nothing you ultimately control. Your thoughts appear in your mind. You don't choose them. They just arise, shaped by a storm of genetics, environment, and experience. But let's pause. If free will is an illusion, why does it feel so real? When you stand at a crossroads, should I stay or should I go, should I quit or should I keep going, you feel the weight of choice. You feel that you could take one path or the other. This experience is undeniable. Yet here's the brutal question. Does feeling free make you free? Just because a dream feels real doesn't mean it is. Now imagine this. A man grows up in a violent household, inherits genes that predispose him to impulsivity, and ends up committing a crime. Do we blame him? Do we punish him as if he had total control? Or do we recognize that his so-called choices were shaped by forces outside his control? If free will doesn't exist, the entire concept of moral responsibility begins to collapse. Our justice system, our religions, our sense of pride and guilt, all of it depends on the belief that we could have done otherwise. Without free will, what happens to blame? What happens to praise? But here's the twist. Some philosophers and scientists argue that the death of free will doesn't mean the death of meaning. In fact, it might liberate us. If your anger, your mistakes, your flaws are not fully chosen, then maybe compassion is the only rational response. Instead of hating others, or yourself, you begin to see behavior as the product of causes. You don't curse the storm for raining. You understand it. In the same way, seeing people as shaped by causes beyond their control might lead to deeper empathy, not less. Others argue that free will exists, but not in the way we think. Daniel Dennett, a philosopher, says that free will is real, but it's not about absolute independence from cause and effect. It's about being able to reflect, to deliberate, to imagine different futures, and to act based on reasoning. In his view, we have degrees of freedom. A child has less free will than an adult because they have less capacity to reflect. A person addicted to drugs may have less freedom than someone who is not. So maybe free will isn't absolute, but relative. This brings us to a deeper question. Even if our choices are determined by prior causes, isn't the ability to think about those causes itself a kind of freedom? If I realize that I'm being manipulated by an algorithm and I choose to turn it off, doesn't that count as free will? Or is that too just another cause, my awareness, my upbringing, my values, playing out inevitably? The debate twists in circles. But here's the most unsettling part. Whether or not free will exists, we live as if it does. Society, law, love, art, all of it depends on the feeling of choice. If everyone truly believed they had no free will, what would happen? Would people stop trying? Would morality collapse? Or would we discover a deeper form of responsibility, one rooted not in punishment but in understanding? The truth is, free will may be one of those ideas we can never fully resolve. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the real freedom lies not in choosing absolutely, but in recognizing the forces shaping us and learning to navigate them consciously. Maybe free will is less about being uncaused and more about being aware. Because the more aware you are, the more you can redirect the currents that carry you. Think about your own life. The big decisions, the job you took, the relationships you entered, the beliefs you hold, were they truly chosen or were they inevitable outcomes of your past? And yet, right now, hearing these words, you feel a flicker of freedom. The sense that you can reflect, question, and maybe, just maybe, shift your trajectory. That flicker might not be absolute free will, but it is something. And maybe that something is enough. So is free will real? The honest answer is complicated. No, you don't have total, godlike freedom. Your choices are shaped by causes stretching back before your birth. But yes, you also have the power of awareness, reflection, and deliberate action. Maybe the last video you'll ever need about free will is the one that tells you this. You are both constrained and free, bound by causes but able to bend them with awareness. The truth is uncomfortable but liberating. You are not the author of your thoughts, but you are the witness who can choose which thoughts to follow, which impulses to resist, which habits to build. That sliver of freedom, small but real, might be the only kind of free will that exists, and it might be all we need. So the next time you feel torn between two choices, remember this. The past is written, the causes are in motion, but in this moment of awareness, something extraordinary is happening. You are not just reacting, you are reflecting. And maybe that awareness itself is the closest thing to true freedom we will ever know.